Hopefully these work. Jay, thank you so much for being here with Trek. We really appreciate you taking the time. I know 2.5 months into your job, I'm guessing you're kind of busy.
Yeah, a little bit, but this is great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's great. So, let me just kick it off by asking, probably what's on the mind of a lot of folks. I know, generally people were probably surprised by the decision, and a lot of the Longhorns were certainly surprised by your decision to join SMU. Can you kind of walk us through that decision and kind of how you got there and what cinched it for you?
Yeah, sure, thanks. And, to be honest, I love UT, my PhD's from there, as the bio says, and really thought it'd be the last stop of my career. But as, things were unfolding, it started in a small way. My wife still follows the Chronicle of Higher Education, and she saw an ad for SMU. And she said, Jay, I think you should look at this. This is probably a little bit in your sweet spot of what makes you happy and brings you joy in life. Yep. And it's a really interesting opportunity. And so, that kind of got me thinking a little bit about it. And it's a lot of things have already come up in the conversation, the introduction. You've got a university that really is going places, and that's exciting to be part of. The board, the city, the alumni base, the students, the faculty really have high aspirations. I think there's a real opportunity to position SMU as that sort of next great urban private university. And I think if you look at universities that have made that move over the last few decades, a lot of them are in great cities. And so the location is a huge part of the story. So to be part of Dallas and what's going on in Dallas is part of it. I think it in many ways puts me, I hope, closer in my kind of connection sweet spot with ability to connect to students, be around the teaching mission, but also SMU is doing more in terms of research. So it's got that nice blend of what, if you kind of close your eyes and think of college, a lot of what you're envisioning is something like SMU.
Yeah.
And so all that, and then, at the end of the day, I think we all want to make a difference in the world, and it felt like someplace I was hoping to make a difference. I explained it to some of your fellow board members. I like being a college president, don't love being a politician, and I hope this job is more of the college president stuff.
Yeah, got it. I think a lot of the folks in the crowd may not understand how unusual it is to have a university president that has a business background, and not only that, but for the purposes of this room, a real estate finance background. Explain a little bit about how your professional background influences you and also your vision for the university.
Yeah, thanks. I got super lucky. So I was getting my PhD and was trying to figure out what to consider working on, and sat across the hall from a fellow PhD student who was doing stuff in real estate, and he kind of pulled me in and said, it's this really interesting blend of, there's enough kind of finance in there, but there are interesting urban economics issues. How do cities form? How do they develop? How do you get capital to work to build things? It's more tangible than the stock market. You can actually get to see the product of the industry, which is interesting. It plays a role in getting smart people around each other to make things happen. I found that fascinating. So I ended up kind of going down that path and doing a lot of my research, both in, I would call straight corporate finance, but also real estate. Then you kind of roll the clock forward, and maybe one of my biggest career breaks was after I got tenure. They asked me to take over the real estate center at Texas, and it was something that Jeff Swope's here somewhere. Jeff and a bunch of others probably in this room helped get that going, and I learned today it was modeled after Trek. Yeah. And it was a question of could they pull off something Trek-like at a university, and so I did that for about 10 years, and it showed me I really liked dealing with people in industry and finding ways to hopefully bring industry perspectives into the classroom, opening up opportunities for students, trying to find a way to connect theory and practice. And that job and what we were able to accomplish there in that effort really opened up the chance to become the dean of the business school. And then, there was a wild moment in the beginning of COVID where the president and provost of Texas both left. I was if you've seen the show Designated Survivor, I was like the HUD secretary in the basement, and everybody got blown up, and it was COVID, and they had to find somebody to run the university. So that turned into my job. And then, here we are today. So I really can trace it all back to my involvement with real estate and what it helped me find my joy.
Yeah, it's great. Great journey. So you've been on the job now with 2.5 months. So tell us what has been some of the things that are the most surprising to you, and both about maybe the Dallas community, but also the university specifically.
Yeah, thank you. And this is probably the big city in Texas where I had not lived. I'd lived in San Antonio, Houston, Austin. So it's a real opportunity to get to come move to Dallas. And some of you know this, but if you come from Austin, Dallas is viewed as pretty fancy. You all dress up more. There's a bunch of
fancy ballrooms like this.
Ballrooms, loafers without socks.
Yeah.
It's a whole different kind of vibe. And so part of what's really struck both my wife and me, and I want to say thanks to everybody, it's just been the warmth of the community. And, beneath that veneer of supposed fanciness, the people have been just fantastic. So that we felt super welcome here. That's one part. Second part, and it probably shouldn't have been that surprising, but just to be on the ground floor in the city and see the enthusiasm around SMU at this moment in time. And it's not just the people who went there or have kids there. It really feels like the city understands this special opportunity the university is facing. And, I know we have been, we want to be even more a part of the Dallas community. We want to do our share, but also, we realize that there's a symbiotic, we help each other opportunity. So that has been more tangible than I probably even expected. And then to get in and get to see pockets of the university that are already really competing at a world-class level. And, for example, the Meadows Museum. So SMU has probably the second greatest collection of Spanish art in the world behind the Prado. And so we've got one of the top game design programs at the graduate level in Guildhall.
Yeah.
And so it's been really fun to go around and just learn where these pockets of excellence are. And then part of what we're going to work on is how can we build more of those.
Right, fantastic. I could speak for, I have 4 Longhorns in my family. I'm the only Mustang, and you're beloved by them. So I think hopefully part of the warm reception you're hearing is not just the SMU people, but a lot of the UT folks are really rooting for you.
The Houston Longhorns feel differently than the Dallas Longhorns.
Yeah, that might be it.
So I appreciate
because they don't get to see you as often. So I think everybody in this room knows, Dallas, Fort Worth is one of the top national real estate markets in the country. In fact, I think I saw yesterday there was a article that came out that said 5 of the 10 fastest growing micro markets are in North Texas, which is it's kind of just amazing. Have you had a chance yet to figure out how SMU and the Cox Business School and Folsom can prepare our students to kind of take advantage of that surge of activity and growth?
Yeah, that part is truly one of the most appealing parts about not only my job, but lots of jobs at SMU. So truly the day after I was announced as the incoming president at SMU, SMU was looking for the next dean of the business school at the Cox School of Business. Yep. And I called a guy I knew well for years, a guy named Todd Milburn, and he had been the number 2 person at WashU in St. Louis Business School, Olin Business School for a long time. I had tried to get him to look at the McCombs job when I vacated it, and he wouldn't do it. And so I called him and said, I'm going to go to SMU. This is now known. Would you enter the job? And he jumped at it and competed and won the job. But part of what his thought process is he's sitting in St. Louis and trying to figure out how to run a business school connecting to industry in St. Louis, get faculty excited to go to St. Louis, get students excited to go to St. Louis. That's a lot harder than doing the same thing in Dallas. And so he came, we got an athletic director, 2 other deans, a provost. We're all kind of in this moment of excitement about the university and the city and how intertwined they are. So down to Folsom, back to kind of what I view as special about real estate, this is partly where we've had your help, but we want more of it. You all can provide ways for us to do better jobs in the classroom. You can provide opportunities for our students, come speak in a class, provide an internship, provide a project in class. Those are things that happen really well at top programs like what's happening really already, but that's what we want to do more of. So as Dallas just continues this boom and this trajectory, we want more and more to SMU to be in the midst of it all. And one of the, I had breakfast today with Jim Lee, who's working on the Texas Stock Exchange. You think about the Y'all Street movement. I think Texas is going to continue to attract more and more in terms of corporate relocations, people coming here. And so how do we, help connect the dots for people to see SMU as either a convener to bring people together to have discussions, opportunities for our students. Some people want to be around our faculty because they're doing research in areas that matter to industry. It's largely how do we find ways to make more and more of that happen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, getting a little more granular, I know Joseph Cahoon has done a fantastic job with the real estate department at SMU, and then just recently, last year, launched Masters of Science in real estate. How is that progressing? Have you chatted with him about where you see that going and any other additions to the real estate department at SMU that y'all are talking about?
Yeah, we've had this, Joseph and I had this great relationship. He took my class back in the MBA program at my former job, and then we did this real estate center thing I was describing. We did that together for many years, and then he was recruited away to run the program at SMU, and now I'm really happy about that.
Yeah.
I was a little bitter. I was a little bitter for a little while, but now to get the chance to work with Joseph and see what he's done is just remarkable. And so he's got a lot of things humming at the Folsom Institute, and with a lot of help of everybody in this room. But then one of those things has been this new master's program, and so it's off to a great start. I met some students, at least one student who's in the first year class of that program. So they're now up and running. And this is, again, part of the appeal to you all as a group, whether it's through Joseph or me or the dean. If there are things we could be teaching differently and designing differently, let us know. So if you feel like there's a hole or an opportunity for an academic institution to come in with whether it's a class or a program or some sort of experience for our students, we're open-minded. And I don't know what the next degree might look like, but we can even start smaller and say, hey, there's a class that if you could think about, and we had students who had these skills that would be really valuable, let us know, because we want to find ways to continue to make more of that kind of thing happen.
Careful asking for advice from this group.
Yeah.
They will give it to you.
That's right, yeah.
So let's see. I think we talked about the university's long-term vision. Talk about maybe, I know you're probably only a part of the way through a new strategic plan at the university. Are there any things you can kind of tease us with that would be a part of that plan that's underway? Like what changes would you expect everybody to notice about SMU in the next couple of years? So it is early, and we're going to have a lot of conversations. When you end up in one of these jobs as a president of the university, you realize it's really hard to cram things down. Really, the strength of the university is trying to enable things from the bottom up. And so that's, we've got a lot of work to do to sort of find out what that looks like. So let me give you a little bit more kind of thought process. And, SMU is on this journey up, and if anything, our job is to make it faster and steeper. And so we wanted to rise even more. And we're not going to get, kind of the entire university all at once to be at the very top world-class level. So we're going to have to pick spots. Yep. And so part of it is going to be figuring out what are the strategic investments we want to make, ideally with help, to make those things happen. And so the early thought process is looking through where do we have some strengths already as a university, where are things that some things just honestly have higher impact that are more relevant than others. Certain fields matter more, and so how do we look at those? Can we afford it? Some fields are really expensive to build in, some are a little bit more affordable. And then where does Dallas have strengths? And so where are things around us that we can lean into? So back to kind of early thoughts, things like the Bush Center and the Presidential Library that's on campus, things like the presence of the Federal Reserve, things like the finance sector in Y'all Street, the arts scene in Dallas is a big strength. So I like sports. There's no university that's known kind of collectively for a great academic set of sports programs, not the competing side, but the academic side. So you can look at those and think, well, Dallas has got real advantages there, and so how are we as a university able to lean into that? Then the part, what you're going to see, I hope, one is just a relentless focus on getting talent to come. And really, if we can get more and more top students to come to SMU and more top faculty, then it's going to work. And so we've just got to be focused on what it's going to take to do that.
And this is probably the best freshman class we've ever admitted. That just started yesterday, first day of class. Applications were up 56% year over year. And the timing does not work right for that to be me. I would like to take credit.
No, take credit.
But that probably has a little bit more to do with the ACC.
Right when we announced you.
Yeah, that was it, just boom. But incredible student demand. And so it's a big class, but also probably the strongest class on paper that we've ever admitted. So how do we find more spots where we can create some really differentiable programs to get more really smart students to come? And the goal would be over time that students for the right program start to say, well, I got into this program at Duke, but for that program I would choose SMU for the following reasons. And that's part of our job. And on the faculty side, it's going to be the same sort of set of approaches, which is where are some areas where we can win, get more and more top faculty to come, and then hopefully get faculty to turn down the kind of household names, universities we compete with and pick us. Then the last layer I would say is, and this is partly where SMU really has done very well already, but really thinking about and focusing on what happens to students after graduation. And if you look at the placement data, one of the areas where SMU has really kind of outpunched its weight is in placement. And students get great jobs, many of which are in the DFW area. The salaries are great. So how can we make more and more of that happen? And also think about where they go to medical school, law school, or PhD programs. So I think it's going to be just driven on getting more talent to come, and then thinking about what happens to the students after graduation.
Yeah. Well, something near and dear to the heart of Trek is community involvement. Every great university, I think, should reflect a commitment to their communities and assisting those communities, meet their goals as well. So, how might initiatives like the SMU Impact Fund, which is through the Folsom Institute, and also your past history with Habitat for Humanity, how might those kind of evolve under your leadership?
Yeah, and I think you're spot on. I think this idea that how can a university really contribute to the local environment and beyond in terms of making a difference in the world. And obviously some of that's how we hopefully discover things, do our research, create things, how we teach. But then to your point on programs, and I'll come back to the business school examples, but you can think about things that are already happening at SMU in terms of what the School of Education is doing for teachers and preparing school administrators for the incredibly difficult world of kind of K through 12 in this environment. There's that kind of work. There's work around training nonprofit leaders who we think can go out and really help those organizations as well. At the business school, a couple things come to mind, and the first one's a little broader. We want to be a source of talent for the workforce and also help people get the skills they need to move up. So I think where you'll see us lean more into the effort is finding ways to give people more skills development, whether they're our graduates or not. There's a clamoring with all that's happening in technology. People need to find ways to position themselves for the workforce, given all the boom that's happening in North Texas. And if we're going to be part of that, along with the other higher education institutions, how do we turn out the right kinds of talent that you all want to hire? Then in terms of real estate, as you mentioned, this impact fund is awesome. And it's a fund where students are able to manage money and take small pieces of deals that people like you all might put together and find ways to have students understand how to underwrite those deals, do the analysis, present to an investment committee and get it through. But it's got a particular lens on it through things that have a social impact. Yeah. So it's a particular bent that gets students thinking not just about what is the IRR or the multiple, but also what is the difference that kind of a project's going to make on not just the built environment, but also the broader societal context. So for us, it's everything from how do we train more talent that people want, how do we help people in the world compete and move up kind of their standard of living, but also how do we design programs like that Impact Fund that provide students with really, hopefully fantastic experiences and get them to think about not just a spreadsheet, but the broader impacts they can have.
Yeah. So for this crowd, if you have a great investment that's in an impact zone, make sure you call Jay or Joseph or Maria Stamolis, who's in the audience, I think. But they're actively looking for opportunities to invest in impact scenarios, and students learn, as Jay mentioned, not just how a deal gets done, but also the impact that that deal might have on the community. So that's kind of an exciting program.
Yeah.
You touched on this a little bit, but student trends, we're sort of besieged these days by AI. We've had, I think, seven deals in a row about data centers. There's just this total technology kind of takeover that's underway in our business. How do you see that impacting what goes on in the classroom? How do we prepare students for this this new reality that's coming their way really fast?
Yeah, it's a fascinating time in higher ed, just like I'm sure it is in your worlds too. And we're all talking about what is kind of the modern technology-enabled classroom environment look like, and how should we be teaching our students. And I'll give you a finance example because it's comfortable for me. But I think this journey we need to be on is everything from how do we still teach students the basics so that the output of a model, they can still understand what went, is that the kind of output that they want to use? Should they trust it? How was it probably built and all of that? But at the end of the day, you can imagine a world where eventually I think banks are going to be able to get by with fewer analysts. Yeah. Or a different type of analyst mix. One of the kind of C-suite types that I talked to said, a typical Wall Street analyst pitch deck used to take 7 to 9 iterations, and now if it gets down to 2, right, then you just, it's a different sort of equation. So I feel like as a university, we've got to be thinking about this journey the students are on from how do we still worry about the basics, whether it's, in my context, financial modeling or just reading, writing carefully. But by the time they finish, they need to be technology enabled. And I think about kind of the AI world as both people who produce that stuff and consume it, and almost all of our students need to be ready to be able to use the tools. And so how do you kind of mix that up in a way that you don't abdicate your responsibility for the basics and the issues, but also have an eye towards usage? So that's, I think one part. Another part that's really interesting for us, at our core, we feel a lot like a liberal arts and sciences university, but we've got these really strong professional schools, Cox, the law school, engineering. And so that blend, I think, is really fascinating in a world where the direction we're heading. And I think there's going to be an interesting case to be made that the next sort of wave of opportunity, there's an opportunity for generalists. If I think about where I came as a PhD student, there was a time when math skills were the way to differentiate yourself. Yeah. But now that can be done by a computer almost instantaneously at low cost. And so you don't need to be able to solve really hard calculus problems. You can just have the computer do it. And the same way, I think many of our students, if they can communicate, can lead a team, can work well with others, and understand enough about what's going on in the model world, I think a liberal arts major can have a really special moment over the coming years because they can use the technology well, but they hopefully can do all the other things that you all want to hire. So, so how do we sort of suss all that out, I think will be part of the planning effort we go into.
Fantastic. So in the Dallas community, big event coming up. We got the World Cup and a bunch of games, and there's going to be a lot of spotlight on our region. Is there something that SMU's planning to do to kind of connect to that? Or I guess even more broadly, are we cooperating with other universities in the region that can help us shine a light on higher education in general in the DFW area?
Yeah, and I think back to kind of this idea around the workforce, that's the place where we've been working kind of the most tightly together as a collection of universities, including Dallas College as well. You think about the whole pipeline of kind of post K through 12. SMU's a medium-sized university, and you think about the workforce needs and the labor needs, talent needs in Dallas writ large. It has to be a collective solution. So we all need to kind of do our part and think about where do we all have roles to play in that effort. In terms of the World Cup, I think it's a really exciting moment clearly for us. A lot of where we're trying to continue to push the frontier of the university is how do we be seen as truly one of the world's exceptional universities. And so the chance to have the spotlight on Dallas is going to be a lot of fun in that context. And I think for us, it's going to be trying to find the areas where we have something to say that is of global interest. And so are there particular aspects of the university that we want to use this chance to highlight? I'm also interested in ways to get the students internships, exposure, experiences out of that opportunity. A lot of our students come into the university, and if they have the chance to be around sports, media, entertainment, and some sort of, maybe it's a business function, but they're around that industry, they're excited about it.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be a chance, I hope, for more and more of our students to get real-world experience, whether it's on the marketing side, the analytics side, the advertising, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. Well, one more question before we turn it over to the questions from the group. But, the transition to the ACC went about as well as anybody could have even imagined. Jumping into the college football playoff in year one was kind of just pinch me kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So in light of that, and with that kind of momentum, what's your prediction for the football team this year? So.
Yeah. I think the good news is I think there's probably some kind of NCAA rule. I know I can't bet on college sports, so I probably shouldn't predict. I can tell you a couple things. You're spot on. We were joking on the side during the intro that but for maybe one field goal that was made instead of missed, it was about as perfectly scripted season last year for SMU.
And had he missed, then SMU probably would have been playing Texas in the first round. So
awkward,
how awkward would that
awkward.
have been?
Yeah. Might have changed the timing of certain things.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that is really going to be a lot of fun. I'm super excited about seeing my first Boulevard and seeing the first home game at SMU. And honestly, the home schedule is really good. Yeah. Maybe even better than the home schedule of another school down the road. And so I'm looking forward to that immensely. And back to the 56%, that ACC thing. The other part, I guess I would tell you that is probably a little bit less obvious to those who are not in higher ed. There are all these connection points between schools and conferences, and to be in a conference where our provost is meeting with the provosts of Duke, Stanford, UVA, Georgia Tech, that's a different conversation than I've been able to be around in the other two conferences. I joked I may be the first president to be in 3 conferences in 3 years. But that connection.
Is that a good thing? Or?
Yeah, I don't know. I told the ACC commissioner I'm done, right?
Yeah,
I want this to be a long-time engagement. But there are ways that affiliation matters from a brand standpoint, from an athletic, obviously, but also even in the academic context, having our deans and provosts around each other, it's a great club to be in. Yeah. And the last thing back to prediction, I will tell you there's a tremendous sense of optimism on the hilltop about the football team in particular. You think about where football's heading. I think the basketball recruiting class I've read was number 4 or 5 in the country.
Yeah, I saw that. Kind of amazing.
Have a new women's basketball coach who has competed at the very highest levels in her previous role. Volleyball, I think, is ranked 10. Men's soccer is ranked number 5, and that's kind of the sports underway at the moment. So, for again, think about the size of SMU. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, amazing. All right, would love to turn it over to the audience for any kind of Q&A. It's kind of hard to see. Don't be bashful. Come on. Any hands? Greg? Wait, one moment. They'll bring you a mic. So you made her run all the way from the back. So.
Jay, does this work? Okay.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about the finance, the real estate, the business school side of things. You referenced technology, AI. How does the Lyle School sort of fit into the future plans in terms of really becoming a go-to school for that?
For engineering, science, and technology.
Science, yes.
Right? Yeah, good question. So for the room, the question's around SMU's Lyle School of Engineering, and we always, because of probably my background in the audience, we've spent a lot of time on business and real estate, but Lyle's extremely important. And so a couple of kind of ways that we're thinking about it. One is how can you leverage a school of engineering to help shape the experiences of the broad campus, not just the engineering school students. And back to kind of this, take AI for example, if we want students to come out of SMU all fluent in understanding AI and machine learning and those kinds of technologies, the engineering school is the vehicle to deliver a lot of that. And so we're looking at more and more ways to hopefully open up the doors of the various colleges and the schools across campus to let students dabble more around the campus as they go forward. Then within the school, there are 2 or 3 areas where we really think we have kind of immediate impact capabilities. We have a lot of people that are doing great work in energy, in particular around batteries and storage, where we think we have opportunities there. Another one, which I think is back to kind of the role of Dallas and think about all the things that are being onshored and happening in Dallas, in particular, the chip sector, automotive and others. We think AI-enabled manufacturing is an area where we've got deep faculty strength and we can do more. And then the third area, again, where we've got some strength and we think there are opportunities is around edge computing and applied quantum. Where we've got that capability already in the faculty. So back to kind of how we want to attract talent, I see us going forward at least in those 3 areas, trying to look for faculty that span those 3 opportunities in particular and get them around. And it could end up being, there's an electrical engineer next to a mechanical engineer next to a computer scientist, and you put them together and work on problems around batteries and storage, for example. And we think that's a real chance for us to make a difference.
Other questions? It's hard to see. Raise your hand if you got anything. One back there.
You're welcome. It was all
Thank you.
me.
In your first 90 days or so, as you reflect, at least everything that I've read so far is that you've been very intentional and direct with understanding how the university operates. In your first 90 days, can you share any small wins that you've been able to achieve as you kind of close in on your first 3 months?
Yeah, thank you. So kind of what of reflecting and then also wins, I think a couple things. So first, and I probably should have said it earlier, so I am super fortunate to follow somebody who did the job really, really well for 30 years. That's almost unheard of today in higher education. And just to put, I could have answered the question about why I moved very succinctly and said I went from being the 30th president to the 11th. And so following Gerald Turner is an important part of kind of this 90-day journey because the university is doing well. It's not a fix-it job. So a lot of that's been trying to figure out how does it run and the like. In terms of sort of some of the immediate things that we've been working on, it's been trying to help instill a sense of what is next in terms of academic excellence in the university. And I think probably the most immediate win I felt is the fact that we were able to lure 3 new deans, a provost, and a sitting athletic director all to campus at the same time. And so it's part of what we're trying to get more people kind of in the mix of the leadership team who, and many are already in place and they're great too, but people who really are seeing the world the same way and know what great looks like. And so to able to get, again, the number 2 from the Olin School, I brought my old provost, Rachel Mercy from Texas. Damon Evans was the sitting athletic director at Maryland, and we hired him over. And so you start to see this kind of enthusiasm of the people on campus who've been doing a great job. I know some of them are at the table, and Brad Cheeves will want me to mention Brad Cheeves. And so you take Brad and the rest of that, the existing team, and you infuse this new talent. That feels like the biggest win so far, is this melding of kind of the current talent base with the new people.
Well, yeah, a lot of that's SMU, but a lot of that's the attraction of Dallas.
That's right.
And wanting to be in this community and being a big part of this community.
With this president.
Yeah, well, for sure that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I should have started there.
No,
Okay, I think on that note, first of all, Jay, really can't thank you enough for being here. You're brand new in your tenure. Let's do this again in 29 years.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Share your accomplishments with the group. And I think now I'm going to turn it back over. So,
great. Thank you.
Bye.